I create things, movies, TV shows, art pieces, even the college classes I teach. Can't imagine not creating, and I would say I have a pretty good imagination. But I didn't always feel this way. When I was in grade school, a misguided art teacher told us that if you were creative, you could draw really well. I thought about this a lot. My mother could draw, so I figured she was creative. My father was a scientist. He never drew, so I assumed he wasn't. I couldn't draw, as my art teacher pointed out on a regular basis. So I resigned myself to leading an uncreative life, and I went about my business just being a kid. At lunchtimes and recess, my friends and I would make up games, but we were just playing. On weekends, I would imagine there were monsters lurking between the pages of my math homework, but I was just pretending. Finally, summer vacation came and the school year ended, and that's when something happened that changed the trajectory of my life. I saw Star Wars. Boom! As I walked out of the theater, high on popcorn and special effects, it occurred to me that someone, George Lucas, had created a world set a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. This world, this universe, this canon was created from scratch. And he didn't even have to know how to draw. Later that summer, I would stay at my grandparents' house, and maybe in an effort to bond with me or just to keep me out of trouble, my grandfather said that we should build something together. I was abuzz with Star Wars still, so I told him in excruciating detail about R2-D2 and said that we should build a droid. My grandfather had no idea what I was talking about. He hadn't seen the movie. But he was always up for a challenge, so we headed off to his basement, to his workshop, to see what we could do. After a few false starts and a couple dead ends, we had built a body out of scrap wood and found some high-tech robot pieces to attach to it, like a red reflector and a broken tire pressure gauge and some bottle caps and a flashlight and a transistor radio that was missing an antenna. That robot looked nothing like anything I saw in Star Wars. But it was the coolest thing that I had ever made. And that's when I realized that my teacher had been wrong. I could create. She just hadn't taught me how. As the years went by, I began to evolve my creative process. I started to make a living working for people who had ideas but didn't know what to do with them, and people who knew what to do with ideas but didn't really have any of their own. Sometimes I would see these people stop creating. It was as if they had poured themselves a cup of coffee and put it down and then walked away while it got cold. I couldn't conceive of that. For me, creativity was as ingrained as breathing. Ideas were constantly percolating in my head. I was gulping down the creative coffee while it was scaldingly hot, and rarely, if ever, put the cup down. This cup of coffee is more than just a metaphor. For probably over a decade, I would make coffee every morning and go walk my dog. He would sniff, and I would think, and we'd both discover new things. Now, I don't want to speak for him, but I had some of my most creative ideas on those walks. Big concepts, small details, and everything in between that goes into making something. I love those walks. But then my dog passed away. I stopped walking. My ideas stopped flowing. I knew I couldn't bring my dog back. But I thought maybe if I understood where our ideas come from, I could reignite my imagination. So to do this, I talked to a bunch of artists and creative types. And I did research into neuroscience and the biochemistry of how our brains work, which I hope makes my scientist father smile. So, today, for the first time, I'd like to share with you what I've discovered about the creative process, at least for me. Creativity is the ability to combine existing memories to form new ideas. Sometimes these ideas take the form of something tangible, like an object. Sometimes there's something intangible, like a theory or a concept. And sometimes there's something else altogether, like a TED Talk. Creativity is not just reserved for art. We use creativity every day in business, in sports, in science, even relationships. Creativity is solution-oriented. Creativity is problem-solving. Some people think that you are born as either a right or left brain person, meaning either creative or logical. But that's totally not true. Creativity starts in the hippocampi, located in our temporal lobes on both sides of our brain. So we are all left and right brain people. These hippocampi take our experiences and our impressions and store them as memories that we can recall later. Imagine a camera. It can take movies and then catalog them and then transform into a projector that can play them back for us on demand. Except these aren't movies. They're memories. When we want to solve a problem, our hippocampi selects the memories that I think might be relevant to our solution, and it sends them to our prefrontal cortex. There, they're combined in new ways to form ideas and solutions and create things. If we like what it creates, our brains release dopamine, which is a chemical that makes us feel good. It's a pretty amazing process. And anyone with a well-functioning brain can do it. So potentially, biologically speaking, all of us can be creative. Once I understood this, that creativity was just a series of steps, I realized that all I had to do was choose something to create, and that would put the process in motion. Sounds simple, right? But how do you create something when you can create anything? Well, for me, I like to create things I care about. I care about music. In fact, I love music. But unfortunately, I play about as well as I draw. Knowing that performing was not going to be what I do, I had the idea to make a movie about music. But that's all I had, just kind of an idea. The movie screen in my mind was blank, dark. It was like looking into a void. It's like staring at a blank canvas, or looking at your computer screen as the cursor flashes, waiting for the typing to begin. Regardless of the medium, filling this void is step one of my creative process. It's what I call the discovery. This is where I take my hippocampi and I turn them into sponges. I absorb all the knowledge I can about a subject. In this case, I researched every music movie I could find. I looked at their style, their story, their subjects, their structures. I didn't know how I was going to use all these impressions yet, but I knew they were important. Around that same time, a friend of mine told me a story. He had started the first underground hip-hop open mic night in Chicago. It was a huge success until the cops shut it down a few months later. But this story stayed with me, and I thought about it for weeks. I finally asked him, "Can I use this for a movie?" When he said yes, I started step 2 of my process, the development. I took that idea of this open mic story, and I rolled it around in my brain. I tried to figure out what did I find so interesting about it? And how could I take that thing that was so interesting and share it with an audience so you would find it interesting also? So as I went about my day, my hippocampi was selecting memories and sending them to my prefrontal cortex. Now, to improve this flow, some people exercise, others meditate. I used to walk my dog. But now I fold laundry or I do dishes. That's why when I had a sudden epiphany and a eureka moment, I had a dirty plate in my hand. But this moment, this eureka moment, is step 3. I suddenly realized that I could take my friend's story and use it as part of a documentary about why hip-hop happened so much later in Chicago than in other American cities. It was an epiphany. It was as if a lightning bolt had struck me. But it didn't really come out of nowhere. Have you ever noticed how your social media feed fills with ads related to something that you searched recently? That's the internet trying to guess what's interesting to you and tell you more about it. Your brain sort of does the same thing. So when you're trying to solve a problem, you are tuned in and aware of things that perhaps you didn't notice before. They were always there, but they just weren't relevant. My friend may have told me his open mic story before. He says he did. But I didn't notice it because I wasn't trying to make a music documentary. But now I was, and it resonated with me. It was time to move on to the next step. This step is called the evaluation. My ideas are not perfect, and they're not precious. I have to examine each one and try and poke holes in it. Is it a good idea? Do I have the resources to do it? Is this the right medium to do it? Is it worth doing at all? If I find flaws with them, and I usually do, I may have to go back a step or two, and that's okay. It's part of how my ideas develop. This time, though, I could tell from the dopamine that things were good, and I was ready to do it. My sister says there's talking about doing it, and there's doing it. Step 5 is the doing it. This is where we take that idea that's in our head and we put it out in the world. Oftentimes, we put up obstacles. We feel insecure. We doubt ourselves. We feel anxious. We feel self-conscious. We don't know if we should do it. I feel the same thing. But I push through all that. I am happy to say I have shot most of the interviews. I've collected the archival and the music I need. And I've put together a rough cut that I can share. That sharing is step 6. This is where we say, all right, world, here's what I want to show you. Here's what I want to contribute. Here's what I want to add to our lives. Some people think this is the hardest part. This is where you're sharing yourself. So I tell myself, some people will like my ideas, some people won't. So I have to make sure that I like them. The truth is, most people won't see my idea. It's just how it is. It's a big world out there. So I know it doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection is the enemy of completion. Creativity is not about perfection. Creativity is about having the inspiration and the passion to want to make something, and the persistence to do it, and then the courage to share it. So what do you want to share? What is in the world that you don't see that you want to add? What do you want to see, hear, feel, taste, touch, experience that doesn't exist? That's what you should do. That's what you should make. Start by finding inspiration in the world around you. Think of the world as a grocery store of impressions. You shop in that grocery store using your senses. You put things in your basket, you take them back to your brain kitchen, and you combine them in different ways to form new dishes. Some of these dishes, much like pineapple and pizza, work, and some don't. But you don't know till you try it, and each person it will be different. If you get stuck, take a break. Wash some dishes, fold some laundry, walk a dog. If you need help, ask a friend. Find people who are interested in the same things you are and talk to them about it. Creativity thrives in collaboration, whether it's making a robot with your grandfather in his basement or making a documentary about hip-hop with a friend. Today I've told you my recipe for creativity. Yours may be different. You may have more steps, or fewer steps, or something altogether different than what I do. That's okay. It's about whatever works for you. So in closing, I'd like to give you this challenge. Every day, try and create one small thing. Draw a doodle. Take a picture. Rhyme a word. Make up a dance step. Anything. But if you do this every day, you will be amazed at how your world changes. You are unique. Your brain is unique. Your experiences are unique. So your ideas are going to be unique. No one else can do them. So if not you, who? And if not now, when? Thank you.